Kevin, let me know when you're recording. It's a nice finger. It's kind of the creation of man, kind of. Okay, sorry. Okay, stop it. Okay, so it looks like we're recording. Chris, let's say you got the floor.
Okay, all right, everybody, it's Chris Mullins, the phone sales doctor, with one of your 5-step relationship sales conversion systems coaching session. I'm going to go over the 5 steps of the relationship sales conversion script. I'm going to tell you how to use each step, what the purpose is for each step, and why we designed it the way we did. This is all to help you to be doing even better than you're already doing. So I'm just going to tell you briefly. The 5 steps are: step number 1 is the introduce step. Step number 2 is the talk step. Now pay attention. Step number 3 is the acknowledge step. Step number 4 is the confirm step. And step number 5 is the execute step. And if you were paying attention, you can tell that that's an acronym. The 5 steps spell intake. We did confirm, step number 4, with a K, so we could spell intake to help you remember the 5-step relationship sales conversion script. So what I'm going to do is just go through each of the steps for you right now. The introduce step is similar to what you would call a greeting, but here's what we're going to be doing. We're going to start off with, welcome to ABC Law Firm. My name is Chris. How can I help you? Question mark, pause, wait for the answer. And then let's just say someone says, yeah, I had a car accident. I don't know what to do. It's never happened to me before. I don't even want to be talking to a lawyer. Then what you're going to do is you're going to control the conversation and say, I can help you with that. May I ask your name? Pause, wait for the answer, take down the person's name. That's all in the introduce step. So the introduce step is welcome to the name of the law firm and include your name. And then you can say, I can help you, or how can I help you, whichever you're comfortable with. But the requirement is, in order to get a positive score in the introduce step, is you must say, welcome to, my name is, okay, and then plug in the name of your law firm and your name. So welcome to ABC Law Firm. My name is Chris. How can I help you? And they ask you whatever question is that they have, and then you control it. I can help you with that. I can help you with that is a great way to transition into asking the name of the person. I can help you with that. May I ask your name? So now you're in control of the conversation. You're directing the call. That's the introduce step, the welcome statement and getting their name, and that would give you a positive score. The step number 2 is the talk step. This is the most important step out of the 5-step relationship sales conversion script, because this script, and this step here, is where you're kind of doing the relationship dance. You're getting to know each other, you're having a dialogue, and quite frankly, the prospective client is trying to decide while you're talking to them, yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. Do I like them or don't I? Do I like them or don't I? And it's all about you, the intake specialist. It's not about your law firm yet, not at all. It's about you, the intake specialist. So there's a lot going on in the talk step. Let me just explain a couple of items to you in the talk step that you want to make sure that you do and you use. And we do want you to use the script and use the language on the script, but we don't want you to sound scripted. And don't worry about it, because I'm going to teach you how to use this script without sounding scripted, and you're going to be amazed. So the talk step begins like this. I'd like to ask you some questions to see how it can help you. Okay? Question mark, pause, wait for the answer. Okay, so wait for the answer, because what this is you'll see when we go through each of these steps here with examples of real training calls, that it talks about permission and statement of purpose. In the talk step, when you use that language, what you're really doing is getting permission and making a statement of purpose. So the statement of purpose is, I'd like to ask you some questions. Getting permission is to see how we can help you, okay? Question mark, pause, wait for the answer. The reason why we want you to ask that question in the talk step is because in the introduce step, you know, the relationship is pretty neutral. There's not much going on. There's not really a lot of intimacy happening right there. They're just calling in and kind of getting directed to the right person. But when you get in the talk step, now all the intimacy is going to be happening in that step because the communication changes. This is where you ask your screening questions, your qualifying questions, and they are intimate questions, personal questions, difficult questions, hard questions, really difficult for the intake specialist to ask and difficult for the prospective client to answer. So the right thing to do, because this script focuses on relationships first, business second, because quite frankly, you're not really in the legal business as much as you're in the relationship and the healing business. So you want to keep that in mind. So the right thing to do before you dive into your screening questions, like most law firms, they just dive into their screening questions and they sound like license and registration or like a survey or monotone and flat. And you don't want to do that. First, you want to ask permission to ask questions. That's the right thing to do, and that will build relationships and trust. And the thing I want to remind you of as an intake specialist is prospective clients are going to call 3 to 5 of your competitors before they make their final decision. So they might have already called a law firm, and they're certainly going to call a couple of more after you. No matter how wonderful you are, they're going to do their due diligence, and you want them to be like, wow, I am going to choose your law firm because you stood out. You didn't even sound like a law firm. You were more like the Ritz-Carlton. And that's why you want to ask permission to ask questions. They
Chris?
say, okay. They say yes. Time out.
Time out. It was great. Great stuff. Would you do me a favor? It feels a little fast. It feels like there's so much really great stuff flying by, and I'm barely able to hang on to it. Try it just about 10% slower and let me just hear kind of what that sounds like. Good chance we'll go right back to the way you were doing it before. I just want to hear just if you just slowed it up just a smidge.
Okay, that sounds super. So I'm going to continue from where I was, and I'll just slow it up. Okay. So we have the talk step, which is step number 2. And what you want to do with the talk step is you're going to ask permission to ask questions. So that's the teaching moment that you want to understand. The whole point of the statement I'm about to share with you is asking permission to ask questions before you dive into those screening questions, which I know you want to get into those right away because that's what you do every day, all day long. So let me demonstrate. I'd like to ask you some questions to see how I can help you, okay? Wait for the answer. So question mark, pause, wait for the answer. Wait for the caller to say yes. That's important because otherwise you're not getting permission. Once they say yes, go into your screening questions and ask your screening questions just like you usually do. Follow your screening questions. However, another piece that we want you to do in the talk step, so far it's ask permission to ask questions, then go to your screening questions. Then we have 2 more steps for the talk step. It's called sing, that's one of the steps, and the next one, the final one, is called check-in. So what sing is while you're asking your screening questions, I want you to sing like Elvis Presley. No, I'm only kidding. Just kidding. Just kidding. Okay, only kidding. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to change the inflection and the tone of your voice as you ask your screening questions. Okay, so I know what you're doing all day long. We listen to all of your recorded calls. It's really difficult what you do all day long, the kinds of calls you take and how many you take. And it's easy to all of a sudden sound like license and registration when you're asking those screening questions. And you don't mean it and you don't realize it, but it does happen. However, now you know you need to sing while you ask screening questions. So that means that what you're going to do is change the inflection and the tone of your voice, just like I just demonstrated to you. Change the inflection and the tone as you ask your screening questions. The final step that you're going to be doing in the talk step, and again, these are required in order for you to be certified in this program. Each step you must accomplish. So the final step is the check-in step. While you're asking the screening questions, you are going to periodically check in with the person you're speaking to. Now, I'm going to give you some examples of check-ins, and you want to write them down because they're probably going to be on a quiz later on. So here's some examples. You'll probably develop your own in time, but these are examples. So as you ask your screening questions, you may say, "You're doing a great job," or "We're almost done," or "I just have 2 questions left," or "The next question I'm going to ask you is a difficult question, but I do need to ask it," or "I can't imagine being in your shoes. This sounds really difficult what you're going through. Thank you so much for your patience with all these questions I'm asking you." Those are examples of check-ins. What's a check-in? Why do you need to have check-ins? Because while you're asking screening questions, you're internally focused. Internally focused, which means you're focused on your business. You're focused on checking off the boxes of all the questions you need to get answered. And that's required for you to do that so you could tell if this person is qualified for you to be able to help them and change their life. But while you're doing that, you want to kind of jump in and humanize the conversation a little bit and be externally focused. Externally focused means you're thinking about them. You're focused on them and their relationship. So you're letting them know by doing periodic check-ins that you care about them, that you know that they're there, and that you feel like this is a relationship. It's not just about me, the law firm, getting all my questions answered. And remember, you're trying to sound totally different than all the other law firms that they did call and they will call. This is an exceptional experience. So that is the talk step. Then we have the acknowledge step. That's step number 3. The teaching moments, the triggers for the acknowledge step is you're acknowledging this person for everything that they just said prior to step number 3, which is acknowledge. So everything that they said in the talk step, and you're making a recommendation. That is the purpose of the acknowledge step. Okay, that's the purpose. That's the desired outcome. Here's the language that you're going to use when you get to the talk, when you get to the acknowledge step, which also is known as the CTA, call to action. This is all done in assumptive language because whether we like it or not, we are in the S word world, which is called sales. And we teach you how to sell with integrity. So don't worry about that. We're not going to teach you to push people or try to jam things down people's throats. We're going to teach you to give love, care, and concern to every phone call while you convert them. So with the acknowledge step, the language is simply this. "Mrs. Smith, based on what you've said, I'm going to schedule an appointment for you to come in the office tomorrow at 3 o'clock. Be quiet. Don't say another word." So the language, the scripting on the 5-step relationship sales conversion script, the step 3 acknowledge, is based on what you said, blank, 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 blank. So you can fill in the blanks. It will be different for different calls. So perhaps you have somebody that you can't help. And I know that this bothers you as intake specialist. I know this comes up a lot when you feel like you have to quote unquote, this is not a word that I think is a great word to use at the law firm, but it's the word that we do hear a lot, and it's when you have to reject somebody. It would be better to say something like when you really have to turn someone down and you're not able to help them, but you're going to find a way to help them. So that's a different mindset. And that's something I'd like you to think about. But let's just say in the acknowledge step, there's somebody that you can't help. So you would say this. You would say, "So Mrs. Smith, based on what you've said, this is not a case that I can help you with, but here's how we can help you. You have a pen and paper ready? Here's what we're going to do. I'm going to give you the phone number to our lawyer referral service, and you do want to take the next step and call because they may be able to find a lawyer that can help you. I'm also going to send to you our community resource guide. We're going to put it in the mail to you, and you're going to be able to use that guide for all kinds of information, not just about your case, but just about day-to-day life, things that are going on in your community. What's your mailing address?" And then now you're in the confirm step. Step number 4, you're getting the mailing address and you're verifying the mailing address and you're double confirming the mailing address. The reason why I said it that way, you're double confirming, is some law firms in the screening question process, they get the contact information. They get it in the screening questions, which is, you guessed it, step number 2. But what's going to happen is if you do get it in the talk step, when you get to step 4, confirm, you're just going to double verify. You're just going to repeat back and spell out everything that you already got in step number 2. If your firm doesn't get the contact information in step number 2, then when you get to step number 4, the confirm step, you're going to get the contact information and spell everything out and repeat it back. So I just gave you 2 examples on somebody that you can help and somebody that you can't help. And by the way, you always use all 5 steps in every call. Whether you can help somebody or you can't, you always use all 5 steps. Sometimes it's a bit of a brain twister when you get to step 5 and the execute step. You wonder how to do it when you can't help somebody, but you'll be okay because you're going to practice. And with your practicing, you're going to learn how to do it and it'll be totally natural. So we did the acknowledge step, which focuses on acknowledging them for everything they said prior to step number 3 and your recommendation. We did the confirm step, double verifying all the contact information. And also, it's like a life raft for you, because if you didn't get all the contact information in step 2, the talk step, you can get it all in the confirm step. So there, now we're going to go to step number 5, the execute step. This is the big red bow, the Ritz-Carlton, the wow factor at the end of the call, where we wrap up all the love, care, and concern that we've been giving to this particular prospective client. And there's multiple steps that you must achieve in the execute step to give the right experience. So the execute step starts with this. Thank you for calling. So that's showing appreciation. That's the teaching moment. You're showing appreciation. And the thing is, you want to be grateful that you received this phone call today versus thinking that, you know what, oh my God, not another phone call. Because if you weren't getting phone calls, if the managing partners at your firm were not doing marketing and spending all the time, money, energy, and effort on marketing to get the phones to ring, you wouldn't have a job. So you want to be really grateful that the phone rang and you have this call to handle. So that's why we're thanking them. Thank you for calling. You're showing appreciation. Mrs. Smith, we look forward to you coming in for your appointment tomorrow at 3 o'clock. Now, we look forward to, when you see it on your scripting, it's going to be, we look forward to blank, because all kinds of different things could be filled in there depending on what happened on step number 3, the acknowledge step. If you couldn't help somebody, you might end up saying, Mrs. Smith, we look forward to you going ahead and taking step number 2 and calling the lawyer referral service. And we also look forward to you getting your community resource guide in the mail. So with the point of we look forward to blank is we're providing assurance. That's the teaching moment. We're providing assurance to the prospective client. The next step in the execute step is what we call the verbal contract. That's the teaching moment. And here's how it goes. Mrs. Smith, if for some reason you're running late for your 3 o'clock appointment, would you please promise to call me? Question mark, pause, wait for the answer. And it's very important that you wait for the answer, because if you don't wait for the answer and you continue on, it's not a verbal contract. This is a very important question that you're asking. First and foremost, most of us were brought up that the word promise is a critically important thing that you can do in your life. When you say you're going to promise to do something, you do it. So most people, if they agree to promise, they will do what they say they're going to do. You could also improve your no-show rates by 20% just by that statement alone. And you're also raising the level of urgency and scarcity of your law firm, because now you're letting them know you want them to promise to call back if for some reason they're running behind or they can't make it or they have any questions, whatever it is. No other law firm is doing that, not at all. So that is the verbal contract statement. And again, it would be, if for some reason, blank, 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 would you please promise to call me? Question mark, pause, wait for the answer. The blank spaces would be filled in typically with whatever happened. You guessed it, once again, the acknowledge step, step number 3. Then we have what we call the final hug. This is done in 3 steps, and this is because we're really grateful. Thank you again for calling. Did I answer all your questions? Question mark, pause, wait for the answer. Is there anything else I can help you with? Question mark, pause, wait for the answer. That is called the final hug, the wow closing. And then last but not least, we have finding out the source, how this person heard about you. And here's how we're going to do it. Oh, by the way, Mrs. Smith, who can we thank for referring you? Question mark, pause, wait for the answer. Why do we do it at the end of the call? I know, most law firms are doing it at the beginning of the call. Well, we don't recommend you do it at the beginning of the call because that's actually a selfish place to do it. That's the law firm only thinking about the law firm. And this is focused on relationships first, business second. We haven't earned the right or the trust to ask how they heard about you until the end of the call. That's the main reason you're doing it at the end. So you need to earn the trust. Now, if somebody tells you at the beginning of the call, then they told you and you already know it and that's all there is to it. But if not, do it at the end. And the reason why we want you to use the scripted language, who can we thank for referring you? Question mark, pause, wait for the answer, is because we want this person to know we get referrals because that's a fantastic thing. And why wouldn't somebody want to show up at a law firm that gets referrals? But there's another reason. We want this person to know in a roundabout way, you're going to be referring to us too. So that's the reason we use that language, and that's the reason it's at the end of the 5 steps. So let me just run through the 5 steps for you, just kind of straight through. Welcome to ABC Law Firm. My name is Chris. How can I help you? Yeah, I had an accident. I don't know what to do. I didn't want to call a law firm. I'm really hurt. Okay, I'd be happy to help you with that. May I ask your name? My name is Mary. So Mary, I'd like to ask you some questions to see how I can help you. Okay? Yeah, that'd be fine. And then you go through your screening question process and you're singing and you're checking in and then you jump to acknowledge. Mary, based on what you've said, I'm going to schedule an appointment for you to come in tomorrow at 3 o'clock. And then you be quiet and you pause and you wait for a response. If Mary can't do it at that time, she'll tell you and you can go ahead and offer the dual alternative close, an A-B option. And then you go ahead into the confirm step. Mary, before we go, I just want to verify your contact information. You're going to spell everything out, everything that you already got in step number 2. All right, well, thank you for calling, Mary, and we look forward to you coming in at 3 o'clock tomorrow. If for some reason you're running behind, would you please promise to call me? Terrific, thank you. Thank you for calling. Did I answer all your questions? Is there anything else I can help you with? Terrific, thank you. And who can we thank for referring you? And that's just an example on how you would run through the 5 steps. The only couple things that might be different, obviously, is some law firms have a receptionist that would take the call, and the receptionist would do the introduce step. And then they might be doing a trust transfer to the intake team, and the intake team would pick up with step number 2. Okay, that's it, guys.
Good. All right, so can you hear me okay?
I can hear you.
All right. What was that? What did you just do? Was that kind of your whole thing? And if we got that on camera, we would slice that up for individual videos? Or was that an overview, and then for the subsequent videos, you would go into each thing and even elaborate further? Either one is fine. I need to know that before I give you the rest of my thoughts.
I think it's 5 separate videos. 5 separate videos. No, not like an introduction at the beginning.
Okay.
Not with me running through it. 5 separate videos and then the call recordings to use as examples.
Great. Yeah, that was really good. You're really good, and I knew that. And you have just a very listenable voice. I have a whole bunch of notes that I was taking, but I'm still processing. because I'm thinking about a lot of different stuff. But I'll share with you just some of my thoughts. So you first was how we shoot you based on your delivery. And when you first started, I mean, I literally saw you almost like a TED talk, walking and and doing this. But that's really hard to do. Like we'd have to get a lot of lighting and like a kind of a stage and set that up. It's more than just Kevin flying down with a couple lights and a camera. But that's how I saw you first. And then I saw you, just sitting here. You don't have a lot of extraneous hand movements and things that can be distracting. So you really work as a talking headshot. And then this will come back later. I like the authenticity of you doing what you're doing, almost dialing in. There's something really futuristic or very now about, I'm coming into your world right here. There's an intimacy about this particular medium that I never thought about it until we did that. So we'll circle back on all that. Second is, yes, we need to use a lot of calls, because you're telling me stuff and I'm going, I get it. What would that sound like in a call? So I'm hearing the caller, I'm hearing the intake, but you're already now on to something else. So it's like, I want to stop you. I want to play a piece of, of that call. I want to do it in such a way that we can do this in post-production, so it doesn't require your reaction to the call. So like the call is the reaction to what you're saying, and we could get the right calls. If we can't find the right call, we're going to make it ourselves. Yeah, when we slowed you down, you didn't really lose any of your energy, but it got much more, whatever, in the groove, and so that was a good thing. I didn't feel like I was missing so much good stuff flying by. The other thing is they're going to need something either in front of them or constantly kind of up on the screen. That is, I'm kind of seeing it in my head. It's part like intake script, because you talk about a script, like you're going to go here, then you're going to go to these kind of questions, and you're like, I don't know what you're talking about. I was working at McDonald's last week. I do not know what you're talking about. But if they had this script, they can see what you're talking about. It's going to enable you to connect a lot more. But then it's half that, and it's half like the steps. So it kind of shows the steps you're talking about and the actual scripts. You're able to move down this, and you're able to, anyway, I don't even know what I'm talking about right now, but I want to kind of mess with that. And you go, yeah, that's what I do. This is it. This is how you would visually explain what I'm talking about to someone and allow them to kind of follow along. Back to the call. So yeah, we are going to need examples, which would be a lot of work, but I think it'd be really, really worth it. So when you talk about these things, like I can go through now and show you the video and go, boom, example. We need an example. It either could be a phone, or it could be, visually here, or it could be something, but it is something to kind of, connect the theory, the message, the point, to something that they're really going to be able to get and hang on to. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and we already have the examples. We have real recorded phone calls with the client's identification edited out. And the thing is, you can't do too many of them because they're long calls.
Oh, yeah, no.
Yeah,
but you have a lot of stuff where
I'll give good sampling.
Okay, you have a lot of stuff where you go, do blah blah, and then just wait for it. Well, show me what that's like. It's like, I'm going to set up an appointment for you tomorrow at 3:30, and then I want to hear someone say that. I want to hear there to be that pause. Then I want to hear that person go, okay, yeah, I think I can make that. Boom. And you hear, so I also see bite-sized pieces of calls peppering this as well. Because you do address very specific things where one big long call will be really good at the kind of the beginning and the end, but along the way, you're going to kind of want specific nugget-sized examples, if that makes sense.
Well, that's when I stop the call and I say, okay, right here, this is where we did step number 1, and that's how we did it, and then we move on and so on.
Good. Next, we have the ability, and you said you might want to write some of these. What are they called? Check-ins. You might want to write some of these down. And I'm like, write them down. This is like, 21st century, but I knew what you meant, and yet we have that ability, and we have these ability to build in interactive exercises, right? Yeah. So that you can go, I'm going to give you a couple check-ins. You're going to move to the next step in this video, which is an interactive exercise, and follow the directions where I'm going to be asking you to write down, 4 or 5 more. And because once they do that and save, then the person at the law firm that's overseeing this training video could go see, after the fact if they got it right. So that would be a great one for an interactive exercise. You give them saying, hey, you're doing a great job. We're almost done. This and this and that. Give me some other, types of check-ins that you might use. Okay, boom. So that would be really good. And I like that a lot. All right, these start to get strange. So I'm also seeing multiple Chris Mullins in this. Like I'm literally seeing the formal Chris Mullins, and then Michael and or Jay, or kind of popping into, you're kind of doing it's like we recorded a TED Talk where you're playing examples and you're doing all this stuff, and we're showing that TED Talk to someone, and then Chris Mullins is able to come back and comment on our showing the Chris Mullins TED Talk. I don't know if that makes sense. I don't even know if that would work, but if it does, it would be really pretty kick-ass.
Yeah, so, you lost me there.
Yeah. I wish we could hear Kevin so I could go, Kevin, do you have any idea? And he would re-explain that in such a way. So there is the formal video of you delivering this training. And let's just say we recorded it, at a TED Talk. So it's kind of like, I'm saying, today we're going to be looking at Chris Mullins in one of her famous training sessions, and we're going to be, we're going to be commenting along the way, and hear from you and this and that and the other. All right, let's visit with Chris right now and show you a piece of her, whatever. And then we play a piece of your deal, and we'd go, now how does that relate to you? How does that relate to what you're doing? And we feel this and this and this. And in fact, Chris is here with us live today. Chris, what do you think? And you pop in now as this Skyped in version of Chris and say, well, you know what? I should have said this over here, and be based on whatever. So you're able to almost comment on what we're saying and even comment on what you've already said. That way, what it does is it opens a back door if you want to add another thought or whatever. It's just a vehicle. Like what we did in our videos, we had a narrator, then we had the main presenter, Michael, and then Jay was coming in. And it's nice to have multiple people, but the real reason we did that was because in case Michael didn't say all the things, I went, well, Michael, you should have mentioned this and this, and I can mention it, so we have a method of continuing to work after we shoot you, because we don't want to run you and Kevin back down to New Orleans to get something that you might have missed. Does that make sense?
So then if we did something like that, I would have to train, because this is like something that this would be a certification program where they've got to do these 5 steps. They get scored on the 5 steps by their intake manager and that whole thing. So I would have to teach the other people that you're talking about my methods so that they make sure they say the right thing.
Oh, no. Well, as far as scoring and getting people certified or whatever you said, I believe we can build that into the educational platform itself. I'm just simply talking about a way to break this up from a production vehicle standpoint to make it a little more lively and to cover our ass in case we felt like, you know, we wanted to add anything after June the 26th or whenever we're shooting this. And it's not something you really even need to worry about because you're going to do your presentation the exact same way that you would do it anyway. It's just all kind of post-production things in my head. If you did this exact presentation, and I would say just let's run through it again. How similar do you think it would be from the first time through? You think it's, you know, because you've done this so much, it's like, dude, it's going to be pretty much identical. Or are you going to say, no, it's like comes out differently every time I do it? Because that also will impact how we shoot this.
No, it'll be pretty much identical.
Okay. I would have guessed it would be probably, you know, less than 10% different. Because it felt like you were just very confident in the way you were delivering it. Another vehicle that I'm seeing as another kind of takeaway would be a discussion with you, you and I, or you and Michael, or you and I and Michael, about intake. Almost like someone was, you know, say we have a question, you know, and you know, so and so writes in from wherever, and we didn't really do that, but you know, how do you feel about this and this and this? And you know, Michael might say something, and you would comment on what he's saying, or vice versa, or whatever, because your talk is very. It's very strong, very organized, very confident, very, you know, this. I kind of been feeling like we want to add some other things to make it, I don't know, Kevin, what am I trying to say? But you can't talk, can you? Can you? Okay, that's really good. Thank you. Anyway, I'm just kind of seeing in my head, and these are my off the top of my head thoughts. I will want to cogitate on it quite a bit, but I think it's great. I think we can absolutely work with this, and I think the next step would be to hear some of the calls when you actually do this. I'd like to hear what those are like and how long they are and how you use them and how you go through and start and stop calls. And then the next thing I would like to do is hear more about at our next session, how you do the certification and what that whole process is all about. So we can figure out a way to make it really cool in our learning platform.
Okay.
Cool.
Yeah.
Good. All right.
Good.
Kevin, did you get that recorded? Nice. Okay. Can you make that available for Chris and I to review? And good. I think we're great. Chris, it's very cool. I really like it a lot.
Okay, super.
All right. Same time next week?
Yeah, let me just take a little peek here. Yep.
Okay.
4 o'clock Eastern.
Great. And by the way, it's like my first beer here of the day. I'm starting a long weekend. I'm like, oh my God, I just like instead my wife came in and gave me that, and just as a way of saying get off the call. So I didn't want you to think I'm an alcoholic and drink all day. But I'm going to have a wonderful Memorial Day weekend, and I hope you do too. Do you have any special plans?
Tomorrow I'm going to ride. I'm doing a 25-mile bike ride.
Oh wow!
Yeah, it's a bike race.
That's awesome.
And it's
That's
all
awesome.
hills.
Up through the pretty New Hampshire countryside.
In the mountains where I live.
That's awesome. That's great.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing tomorrow, and then I'm just gonna chill out.
Nice, nice.
How about you?
Yeah, I'm going to. There's a law firm down here in Houston called Danziger and Delano. They have a big. They're called their Tiki something, Moonlight Island Disco Polynesian Party or whatever down in Galveston, and a lot of attorneys and folks gather. And I've always had something going on. This is like the first year. They're very good friends of mine that I'm actually going to be able to go with the wife and the kids, and so we'll do that. And then we just bought a new vehicle that I'm going to have to move everything around the garage to get into the garage. So it's garage cleaning and tiki hut party.
That
Boom.
Sounds fun.
There you go. All right. Well, thank you. When did we say we were doing it next week?
4 o'clock Eastern. Same thing.
Okay.
A week from today.
Great. Kevin, call me. I do want to hear your thoughts, and I want to hear if any of my thoughts made any sense to any one other myself. Chris, go. Be free. Have fun. We'll see you next week.
Okay. So long, folks. Bye-bye. Thanks, Kevin.
Bye.